I get asked one question more than any other by you guys, and that is, what racing wheel am I currently using? Well, today I'm going to answer that question by showing you what I think is the best sim racing wheel combination you can find on the market today. As you can see from the intro, I'm talking about the Fanatec CSL DD wheelbase and the Mclaren Gt3 V2 wheel rim. These two pieces of hardware are relatively cost effective and deliver some of the best value for money in sim racing right now. I've been racing with this wheel combination for a few months now, and I've been amazed at the performance on offer at this price point. With that in mind, let's quickly talk about the price before we jump any further into this video. If you are picking up a Fanatec CSL DD wheel, you will have to buy all of the elements separately, as there currently isn't a bundle with the CSL DD. If you're a PS4 or PS5 sim racer, however, the PlayStation version of this wheelbase, which is called the Gran Turismo DD Pro, does come as a bundle. Going back to the CSL DD, the version I've been running is the more powerful wheelbase with the boost kit. This increases the power output from 5 Nm of torque up to 8. So the base level CSL DD will cost you $350 or euros or pounds, and the upgraded 8 Nm version with the boost kit will set you back around $480. This may be more expensive than a lot of budget racing wheels such as the Logitech G923, but it is currently the cheapest Fanatec wheelbase available to buy, as well as being the cheapest ever console compatible direct drive racing wheel. Much like the CSL DD, this Mclaren wheel rim is also one of the most cost effective steering wheels that Fanatec currently sell, coming in at just $199.95. And to round out this racing setup, I'm currently using the base CSL pedals while I wait for my load cell brake pedal to arrive. Unfortunately, the load cell brake pedal is on pre-order for March this year. But this 2-pedal set costs just $79 euros pounds, which is incredibly low for any pedal set. In total, that puts the value of this sim racing setup at around $760. Given that before 2021, if you wanted a direct drive wheelbase, you'd be spending upwards of $1,000 or euros on the wheelbase alone. So I think that this is pretty great value, and that Fanatec have finally figured out a way to keep our wallets happy, or happier anyway. This price can also come down to around $630 if you opt for just the base CSL DD without the boost kit, which is still a decent performing wheelbase. So this may be one of the most budget friendly Fanatec sim racing setups that you can buy, but what do you actually get for your hard earned money? Well, as mentioned, the CSL DD wheelbase that I have here is capable of producing up to 8 Nm of torque, which is delivered to your steering wheel via direct drive technology. Direct drive essentially refers to the mechanism of how the force feedback is translated from the motor to your wheel. Almost all budget racing wheels utilise a gear or belt system, and these work to send force feedback from a weaker motor via a series of belts or gears, or sometimes both. The problem with belt or gear driven wheelbases is that you can lose some of the force feedback fidelity before it reaches your wheel. On top of this, these sort of systems have other downsides, such as generally producing weaker forces, as well as issues such as being able to feel the gears grinding or popping. With a direct drive wheelbase, the motor is normally larger and is connected directly to the motor shaft, giving you much higher levels of force feedback fidelity. Not only will the force feedback feel stronger and more powerful, but you'll also have more detail from the road, curbs and forces on your car. As a sim racer striving for the most realistic and immersive experience possible, direct drive is really the only way to go. Looking at the design of the CSL DD, it does look pretty racy with the outer grooves and heavy sculpting. Not only do these look cool, but they also work to keep the wheelbase cool during use. These grooves work with the aluminium build to act as a natural heatsink, drawing heat away from the internals. This means that Fanatec has been able to remove any internal cooling fans, making for a super quiet racing experience. Around the back, we have our usual Fanatec connection ports. We have RJ12 ports for all of our peripherals such as handbrake, pedal and shifter, and we also have a couple of USB-C connection points and the slot for the power supply. Simply hook all of your peripherals up to the wheelbase itself, then connect your wheelbase to your console or PC via the USB cable and connect the power brick. If you have ordered the CSL DD already or are planning to do so this year, you'll also be sent the QR1 quick release in a separate box. This attaches to your steering wheel of choice and allows you to quickly remove your wheel by hand without tools. In terms of the performance of the CSL DD, I've been extremely impressed. With 8 Nm of torque output, it does sit well below its bigger brothers of the DD1 and DD2, which Fanatec also sell. These mighty wheels can put out over 20 Nm of torque, but also cost an arm and a leg more. Realistically, every time I've raced with the DD2 wheel, I've always lowered the torque output by around 40 or 50% anyway, bringing it much closer to the 8 Nm of the CSL DD. The detail and fidelity that the CSL DD creates is remarkable and is on par with the much more expensive direct drive wheelbases. It is incredibly smooth throughout, and there is almost zero noticeable artifacts or distortions that break immersion. Driving around a track, you will feel an impressive amount of detail in areas such as curbs and the track surface, as well as being able to feel how your car is behaving. During my testing, I occasionally jump back to an older Logitech G923 that I have laying around, and the force feedback difference is night and day. I don't want to go as far as saying that you will find lap time if you race with a Fanatec CSL DD, but you can certainly feel more detail in everything that is happening around you. This allowed me to react in a different way when compared with the G923. Looking at the steering wheel I've chosen and have been using for the past few months, you'll see that I have the upgraded Mclaren Gt3 V2 Rim. This design has been around for a while now, and this version is actually the second iteration. While the design of this wheel rim hasn't changed much from when it was first introduced, the V2 does feature a few upgrades. The screen itself has been replaced with a white OLED display, and this can be used to display a whole host of telemetry readouts, such as your current speed and your revs. Here's also how you can adjust the settings and tuning of this wheel. The shifters themselves have been reworked, and this is great news as the shifters on the first gen Mclaren GT3 were probably its weakest component. The new shifters have been made from a single piece of machined aluminium, which is finished in a bright orange colour because, well, you know, McLaren. Because these are made from one entire piece of metal, you can technically shift gear one-handed using the push-pull rocker. Pull the paddle to shift up and push it back to shift down. While this does sound great initially, and you've probably now got visions of driving through Eau Rouge one-handed with a drink in one hand and wheel in the other, it isn't actually that practical. Pushing the shifters to shift down is a little stiff and doesn't feel natural at all. Other than testing this feature out, I rarely use the push mechanic to downshift. These new shifters do utilise magnets to increase the resistance, giving the shifters a distinctive weight to them, and during racing they feel good. You certainly won't be accidentally hitting shifts that you didn't mean to, so you won't have anyone else to blame for that missed shift. While the paddles do feel good to operate, they can be quite noisy and are almost certainly the noisiest part of this whole setup. The shifters emit a very audible click sound when you engage them. If you're racing with headphones, you probably won't notice this, but without headphones, you almost certainly will. There are some quick mods out there that can fix this noise issue very easily, although just be careful not to void your warranty if doing things. During racing, you have a selection of push buttons that can be programmed to serve any purpose you want, from wipers to headlights and more. These buttons generally feel good to use, although the resistance on the N and P buttons has been dialed up to 11. I do think a Fanatec employee thought it would be funny to test the thumb strength of sim racers, as these two buttons can be extremely hard to press. There are also 3 rotary encoders that I use to change my traction control and brake bias, but again these can be programmed for a range of inputs. The overall aesthetic of the wheel is good. It looks very close to the real world counterpart it was based on, and does a solid job of looking the part. It is a slight shame that the carbon fibre pattern on the face of the wheel is actually just plastic in a carbon fibre wrap, but this is understandable for this price range. Rounding out this sim racing setup are the CSL pedals. These take everything that Fanatec has learned from its older generation pedals and packaged it into this impressively cheap pedal set. When buying an entirely Fanatec setup in 2022, you've only really got the choice between 2 pedals, either these or the Club Sport V3s. These CSL pedals cost just $79.95 or $199.95 for a full 3 pedal load cell set, while the Club Sport V3s cost nearly double that. There is no doubt that the Club Sport V3 pedals are better technically, but these CSL pedals offer extreme value for money. As standard, they come with just 2 pedals, both using contactless magnetic Hall effect sensors. This gives added precision and durability over time, as there are fewer components coming into contact with each other. The secondary pedal is used as a brake in its 2-pedal configuration, or the clutch if you add the additional load cell brake pedal. This secondary pedal has a foam wedge directly behind the pedal, which aims to replicate pressure as you apply force. My load cell is on pre-order and will hopefully be on its way next month, at which point I may update this video to include my thoughts on that. But for now, the 2-pedal combination is solid, especially when that's all you need for the F1 games. My only real issue with this pedal set in this configuration is that the brake pedal feels a little soft and sensitive. The initial push feels incredibly light, with the pressure becoming harder the nearer you get to the full amount of travel. I would like to have a secondary piece of foam included, which has slightly more resistance at the start of the pedal travel. As you can probably tell, I really enjoy this particular combination of sim racing products. It's been my go-to setup now since late last year, and in all honesty, I can't imagine changing this setup overly soon, other than the addition of the load cell brake. If you currently have a racing wheel such as a Logitech G923 or an older Fanatec CSL Elite, then the CSL DD is a natural progression. It delivers mind-blowing performance in comparison to those products for not too much extra cost. If you've made it this far into the video, drop a fire emoji in the comments to let me know, and also let me know if you've enjoyed this style of product video. If you do, I'll try to get my hands on some more equipment to bring you more content like this. And if you felt that I've missed anything out, let me know that too. But I did try to keep this video relatively short and condensed. As always, please hit that like button as it really helps this channel out. I really appreciate you watching, and take care guys.